Hey family, welcome to Mr. Gray Family, where every story begins with us. A baby cried inside a janitor's cleaning cart, inside one of the most expensive office buildings in Washington, D.C. Not outside, not near the lobby, inside, right there between marble floors, luxury offices, and men making six figures before breakfast. The crying was small at first, easy to ignore, but one man stopped walking the second he heard it. Tom, Millionaire, CEO. The kind of man people feared disappointing. His polished shoes slowed against the hallway floor while employees rushed around pretending not to notice anything unusual. But Tom noticed. He always noticed. The crying came again, soft, fragile, hidden beneath folded towels inside the cleaning cart parked near the conference rooms. Tom frowned slightly. For one quiet second, confusion crossed his face, then concern, because there was only one question in his mind now. Why would somebody bring a baby to work? Have you ever been so desperate you had no choice but to break the rules just to survive? Before we continue, do me a favor, like this video and subscribe because stories like this serve to reach people who still believe kindness matters. Welcome to Mr. Gray Family, a storytelling universe built for people who crave meaning, emotion, and unforgettable narratives. Here, every story begins with a spark and ends with a feeling you'll carry long after the video ends. Love, betrayal, family, secrets, lessons, it's all here wrapped in immersive narration that makes you forget everything else. If you're searching for stories that pull your heart, challenge your mind, and keep you coming back, subscribe now. Your story begins the moment you choose to stay. Tom stepped closer to the cart slowly. The expensive hallway suddenly felt unusually quiet. He reached toward the stack of towels carefully and pulled the fabric back. That was when he saw her. Kendra, standing frozen beside the cart like her entire future was hanging by a thread. Tired eyes, worn sneakers, janitor badge hanging from her hoodie, one hand gripping the mop handle tightly, the other shaking near the cart. She looked exhausted in a way sleep could not fix. But even standing there terrified, she was beautiful, not polished, not artificial, just real. The kind of beauty life usually hides behind struggle. Tom barely noticed the rest of the hallway anymore, because inside that cart, a tiny baby girl blinked up at him with sleepy eyes, and before anybody could say a word, Naomi smiled and reached her tiny hand toward him. Kendra's face lost color instantly, because in that moment, she truly believed she was about to lose everything. Washington, D.C. had a strange way of making certain people disappear. Not physically, just quietly. The politicians stepping out of black SUVs every morning got noticed. The executives carrying $1,000 briefcases got noticed. The men in tailored suits speaking loudly into Bluetooth headsets got noticed too. But the people cleaning fingerprints off glass doors before sunrise? Most days nobody even looked at them twice. By 6:30 that morning, downtown D.C. was already waking up. Rainwater clung to sidewalks, traffic lights reflected across wet streets. Inside one of the tallest office buildings near K Street, the lobby smelled like polished marble, fresh coffee, and expensive cologne. Kendra pushed her janitor cart slowly through the hallway outside the executive conference rooms. Her movements were careful, measured, quiet enough not to attract attention. A dark hoodie covered part of her uniform beneath the janitor vest hanging loosely against her body. Her sneakers looked worn near the soles from long shifts and longer walks. She barely slept the night before. Honestly, she could not even remember the last full night of sleep she had. Every few seconds, her eyes dropped toward the lower compartment of the cleaning cart, checking, making sure Naomi was still asleep. The baby rested beneath folded towels and a small blanket tucked carefully around her tiny body. Kendra adjusted the blanket gently while pretending to organize cleaning supplies in case security cameras were watching. "Stay asleep a little longer, Mama," she whispered softly. Naomi moved slightly but did not wake. Kendra released a quiet breath. Thank God, because if management discovered she had brought her 7-month-old daughter to work again, everything would collapse. The daycare woman she sometimes paid under the table had stopped answering calls 2 days ago. Her landlord had already threatened eviction twice that month. And yesterday evening, the electricity company left another warning notice taped to her apartment door. Past due. Again. Kendra closed her eyes briefly while gripping the cart handle tighter. Life kept demanding money from people who barely had enough strength left to survive. But motherhood did something powerful to women. It taught them how to function even while exhausted. How to smile while scared, how to survive humiliation silently. Kendra learned that quickly after Naomi was born. Especially after Naomi's father disappeared, the second responsibility became real. At first he promised he would help, promised he would stay, promised a lot of things. Then one day he stopped answering calls, just like that. Now it was only her. Her and Naomi against everything else. Soft gospel music played quietly through one earbud, while Kendra sprayed cleaner across a conference table longer than her entire apartment living room. The building remained mostly empty this early. Only a few assistants walked through, occasionally carrying coffee trays and laptops. Nobody paid attention to her. Usually that helped. Today it made her nervous, because invisible people got fired quietly too. A small sound suddenly came from the cart. Kendra froze instantly. Her heart stumbled. Naomi shifted beneath the towels, making soft, sleepy noises. "No, no, no," Kendra whispered under her breath while moving quickly beside the cart. She glanced down both sides of the hallway before kneeling. Naomi blinked awake slowly, big brown eyes, tiny fingers stretching toward her mother immediately. "There you go," Kendra whispered gently, rubbing Naomi's cheek. The baby smiled sleepily. That smile hit Kendra every single time. No matter how hard life became, that little girl could still make the world feel softer for a few seconds. Kendra kissed Naomi's forehead carefully. "Just help Mama get through today, okay?" Naomi responded with a tiny laugh. Kendra almost laughed too. Almost. But footsteps suddenly echoed from the far end of the hallway. Sharp footsteps, confident, fast, the kind that belonged to somebody important. Kendra immediately stood up. Her stomach tightened. She knew that walk. People with money walk differently inside buildings like this. Like the world already moved for them before they even arrived. Kendra grabbed the mop quickly and lowered her eyes toward the floor. The footsteps grew closer. Then she saw him. Tom, dark navy suit, clean haircut, silver watch visible beneath his sleeve, focused expression locked on the phone in his hand while walking toward the executive offices. He looked like somebody carrying 10 conversations inside his head at once. Most employees moved differently around Tom, carefully, respectfully. His company had recently rented multiple floors inside the building, and everybody knew he noticed details other executives ignored. Tom rarely smiled, rarely slowed down, rarely looked distracted. But this morning, as he walked past Kendra's cart, Naomi sneezed. The sound was tiny. Still, Tom stopped walking immediately. Silence settled across the hallway. Kendra's blood ran cold, slowly. Tom turned toward the cart. Tom stared at the cart for one long second. Then the sound came again, a soft baby noise beneath the towels. His eyebrows pulled together slightly. Inside one of the most expensive office buildings in Washington, D.C., there was a child hidden inside a janitor's cart. Kendra stepped forward immediately, blocking part of the cart with her body. "I can explain." Tom finally looked at her fully. Not just the uniform, not just the mop, her. And for the first time he noticed details he normally would have walked past. The exhaustion beneath her eyes, the nervous grip tightening around the mop handle, the way she positioned herself between him and the baby without even thinking about it. Protective, instinctive, terrified. Tom glanced back toward the cart slowly. "Is there a baby in there?" Kendra swallowed hard. "Yes." Tom looked genuinely confused now. "You brought a child to work?" His tone stayed calm, but disbelief sat underneath every word. Kendra already knew that look. Rich people always reacted that way when they saw survival up close, like struggle was shocking as long as it happened near expensive buildings. "I didn't have anybody to watch her today," she said quietly. Tom looked toward the hallway, then back at her. "You couldn't call somebody?" The second the question left his mouth, Kendra gave a small laugh. Not happy, tired, the kind of laugh people make when life stops feeling fair. Not everybody got people to call. That answer landed harder than Tom expected. The hallway became strangely quiet after that. For a moment, Tom forgot about the meetings waiting upstairs. Forgot about emails. Forgot about numbers. Because standing in front of him was a woman clearly carrying too much by herself, and still showing up to work anyway. Most people he knew complained when their coffee order came wrong. Kendra was hiding a baby in a cleaning cart just to survive another day. Tom looked down again as Naomi pushed tiny fingers through the towels. The baby blinked at him curiously, then smiled. A real smile. Small, warm, completely unaware of the tension hanging in the hallway. Something shifted inside Tom unexpectedly. Tiny, but enough for him to notice it. Naomi stretched her hand toward him again. Kendra immediately adjusted the blanket nervously. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "She'll stay quiet. I promise." Tom barely heard the apology. His eyes stayed on Naomi, and suddenly, against his own will, a memory surfaced. 3 years earlier. A different life. A different future. His ex-fiancée sitting beside him looking through baby names online late one night, laughing softly while saying, "If we ever have a daughter, I love the name Naomi." Tom swallowed slowly. The memory hit harder than expected. He had spent years avoiding thoughts like that, avoiding anything emotional. Work was easier, controlled, safe. But now a baby with sleepy eyes was reaching toward him inside a janitor's cart, and somehow the walls he built around himself felt weaker than usual. Change in his expression immediately. Pain crossed his face for half a second before disappearing again, like somebody shutting a door quickly. Tom cleared his throat. She shouldn't be here. Kendra lowered her eyes instantly. I know. The shame in her voice bothered him more than it should have, because she already looked embarrassed enough without anybody reminding her. Tom glanced down the hallway. Still empty. No management, no security, no witnesses. Rules mattered to him. He built an entire company on discipline and precision, but this situation did not feel simple anymore. It felt human, and humans complicated everything. Tom looked back at her carefully. How old is she? 7 months? What's her name? Kendra hesitated briefly before answering. Naomi. There was that name again. Tom looked down at the baby once more. Naomi smiled immediately after hearing her name. Kendra noticed how his expression softened around the baby. Not dramatically, just enough to feel real. You can report me if you want, Kendra said quietly after a few seconds. I understand. Tom looked at her sharply. The fact that she sounded prepared for humiliation made something tighten in his chest, like disappointment. Not in her, in the world, because she spoke like somebody already used to people choosing rules over compassion. Tom rubbed his jaw slowly. When was the last time you slept properly? The question caught Kendra completely off guard. Her eyes lifted toward him carefully. Nobody asked her things like that anymore. People asked if bills got paid, if floors got cleaned, if work got finished. But not that, not something human. Kendra looked away first. I don't remember. Tom stared at her for another second, and for reasons he could not fully explain, that answer stayed with him, longer than it should have. Finally, he stepped back from the cart. Kendra braced herself anyway, still expecting the worst, still waiting for him to call management. Instead, Tom adjusted his sleeve calmly. I'll give you until the end of your shift. Kendra blinked. What? I'm not reporting you. For a second, she genuinely thought she heard him wrong. Relief flooded across her face so quickly it almost looked painful. Thank you, she whispered. Tom nodded once, but before walking away, he looked at Naomi again. The baby had already started drifting back to sleep beneath the towels, completely trusting the world around her. Tom envied that innocence more than he wanted to admit. Then he looked at Kendra one final time, and quietly realized something uncomfortable. He did not just feel sorry for her. He wanted to know more about her. That realization followed him all the way down the hallway. The rest of the day felt strange to Tom. Not busy strange, distracted strange. Normally his mornings moved with military precision. Meetings, reports, investor calls, schedules packed so tightly there was barely room to think. But now, every few minutes, his mind drifted back toward the service hallway downstairs, toward Kendra, toward the baby hidden inside that cart, toward the exhausted look in her eyes when she admitted she had nobody to call. Tom stood near the massive windows inside his office, overlooking downtown Washington, while another executive talked through quarterly projections. Numbers filled the screen behind them. Growth percentages, expansion strategies, revenue forecasts. Usually Tom absorbed details immediately. Today he barely heard half the conversation, because another image kept interrupting his thoughts. Kendra kneeling beside Naomi, whispering softly to calm her, protecting her child while carrying fear all over her face. Tom? He blinked. The executive stopped speaking awkwardly. Did you want me to continue? Tom straightened slightly. Yes, sorry, but even after the meeting resumed, his attention stayed fractured. That annoyed him. Tom hated emotional distractions, especially personal ones. 3 years ago, after his engagement collapsed, he promised himself something simple. Work first. Always. People complicated things. Love complicated things even worse. So he buried himself inside business until entire years passed without anything truly personal touching his life. And honestly, it worked. At least that was what he kept telling himself. By early evening, rain tapped lightly against the office windows while employees slowly packed earbags to leave. Tom loosened his tie and glanced toward the clock. For reasons he did not fully understand, he found himself walking downstairs instead of heading directly home. His feet already knew where they wanted to go. The janitorial hallway looked quieter now. Most office lights had dimmed. Cleaning carts lined the walls near the supply rooms. Tom spotted Kendra near the elevators wiping fingerprints from a glass door while Naomi rested inside the cart nearby chewing on a small plastic spoon. Kendra noticed him instantly. Her body stiffened slightly, like she still expected trouble. Tom hated that she expected the worst from kindness. "Hey," he said calmly. Kendra nodded carefully. "Hey." For a second, neither spoke. Naomi solved that problem herself. The baby spotted Tom and immediately kicked her tiny legs excitedly. A soft squeal escaped her. Tom looked genuinely surprised. Kendra tried hiding a smile. "She remembers people. That seems dangerous. She likes attention." Tom stepped closer to the cart slowly. Naomi reached toward him again without hesitation, tiny fingers grabbing at the air. Tom looked down at her awkwardly. "I feel like she's judging me." That made Kendra laugh before she could stop herself. A real laugh this time. Not nervous, not forced, warm. Tom looked up immediately, and for one quiet moment he forgot whatever he planned to say next, because that laugh changed her entire face. Without stress weighing her down, Kendra looked younger, softer, beautiful in a way that caught him off guard. Kendra noticed him staring slightly too long. She cleared her throat first. "You need something?" Tom blinked back to reality. "Right, words. I brought you this." He held out a coffee cup. Kendra stared at it suspiciously. Tom suddenly looked uncomfortable. "I didn't know what you drink." She accepted the cup slowly. The warmth touched her cold fingers instantly. Nobody bought Janitor's coffee in buildings like this. Ever. "What is it?" "Caramel latte." Kendra raised an eyebrow slightly. "That sounds expensive." Tom almost smiled. "It's coffee. Rich people always say that right before something costs $12. A quiet laugh escaped him unexpectedly. Short, real. Kendra noticed the change immediately, because beneath the expensive suit and serious expression, Tom actually looked younger when he laughed. Less guarded. Less lonely. The realization surprised her more than it should have. Naomi suddenly babbled loudly from the cart again. Tom looked down. "She talks a lot." "Oh, you haven't seen nothing yet," Kendra replied while shaking her head. "Soon she gonna start screaming just because she can." Tom glanced at Naomi carefully. The baby immediately grabbed one of his fingers. His entire expression shifted again. Tiny changes, but real, like somebody softening without permission. Kendra watched silently. Most men became uncomfortable around babies, especially wealthy men used to structured, controlled lives. But Tom looked careful, gentle, almost nervous about doing something wrong. That told her more about him than his money ever could. His phone suddenly started ringing. The shift happened instantly. Tom's shoulders tightened. The softness disappeared behind professionalism again. He checked the screen and answered immediately. "Yes." His voice changed completely, colder, sharper, more distant. Kendra listened quietly while rinsing a cleaning cloth nearby. "No, move the meeting to Thursday." Pause. "I don't care what legal says. Fix it." Another pause. "Then find somebody who can—" He ended the call with visible frustration before rubbing his forehead. For the first time, Kendra saw how exhausted he looked too. Not physically, emotionally. Like pressure followed him everywhere. Tom noticed her watching him. "What?" Kendra shrugged lightly. "You look stressed. That obvious?" "A little." He leaned quietly against the wall beside the cart. For a brief moment, neither pretended anymore. Not the janitor, not the millionaire. Just two tired people standing in the same hallway. "Tired of everybody needing something from you?" Tom asked quietly. Kendra looked at him carefully after that question, because underneath the expensive suit, that sounded like loneliness, real loneliness, and suddenly she understood something important. Money had solved a lot of problems in Tom's life, but it had not protected him from emptiness. Kendra took a slow sip of coffee before answering softly, "Yeah." Tom looked at her, and somehow that one simple word made him feel understood in a way he had not felt in years. The next 2 weeks settled into a rhythm neither Tom nor Kendra planned, but both of them noticed it. Every morning around 7:15, Tom somehow found reasons to pass through the service hallway downstairs before heading to his office. At first, Kendra assumed coincidence. Then it kept happening. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, different suits, different coffee cups, same hallway, same timing. And somehow Naomi always noticed him first. The baby would start kicking excitedly the second Tom appeared around the corner. Kendra adjusted a trash bag one morning while watching Naomi stretch both arms toward him immediately. "You got favorites already," she muttered softly to the baby. Tom heard it. "That sounds personal." Kendra glanced over her shoulder. "You should be at work." "I am at work. You own the company. That don't count." Tom almost smiled. "Almost," Naomi babbled loudly from inside the cart while reaching toward his tie. Tom leaned closer carefully. "She trying to fight me? She probably think your tie expensive. It is expensive, see? Babies know rich people." That pulled a quiet laugh out of him again. Kendra noticed something important lately. Tom laughed more around her. Not fake polite laughter, real laughter, the kind that surprised him too. And honestly, that made her nervous, because people only started getting comfortable around each other when attachment began growing. Attachment complicated everything. Still, she found herself looking forward to those hallway conversations too. That realization bothered her more than she wanted to admit. "You always this serious?" she asked while spraying cleaner across a conference table. Tom leaned lightly against the doorway, watching Naomi chew on the stuffed elephant he bought 3 days earlier. "Depends. On what? Whether somebody asking me questions before coffee." Kendra shook her head, laughing softly. "There he is. There who is. The real version of you." Tom looked at her carefully after that. Because most people around him only interacted with the businessman version, the CEO, the investor, the man solving problems every second. Kendra talked to him like none of that mattered, and strangely, he liked it. A lot. Naomi suddenly smacked the elephant against the cart loudly. Tom looked down immediately. "She violent? She's 7 months old." "Exactly. Starting early," Kendra laughed again. The sound stayed with Tom longer than it should have. That was becoming a problem. One afternoon, Tom arrived downstairs during lunch carrying takeout containers. Kendra blinked in confusion. "What's this?" "Food. I can see that. You skipped lunch yesterday." Her expression shifted immediately, because she had skipped lunch, but she did not realize he noticed. Tom handed her one container casually. Kendra opened it slowly. "Chicken pasta, garlic bread, still warm. You remembered what I ordered?" Tom shrugged lightly. "You talk a lot. I absolutely do not. You told me your favorite restaurant, your favorite singer, and your entire opinion on bad macaroni in one conversation." Kendra covered her face, briefly laughing. "Okay, maybe a little." Naomi started making impatient noises from the cart. Tom looked down. "She judging both of us. She hungry too." Into her lap before reaching for a baby bottle from her bag. Tom watched quietly while she fed Naomi. Not staring, just observing. The small details caught him off guard sometimes. The way Naomi calmed instantly hearing Kendra's voice. The way Kendra automatically checked the bottle temperature against her wrist first. The soft humming under her breath while feeding her daughter. Everything about it felt natural, grounded, real. Tom grew up around expensive things his entire life. But moments like this, these were unfamiliar to him. His childhood looked polished from the outside. Private schools, formal dinners, perfect Christmas cards. But warmth rarely existed inside those memories. No loud family jokes, no crowded kitchens, no music playing while people argued over food. Everything stayed controlled. Quiet. Kendra noticed him watching silently. "What?" Tom hesitated briefly, then answered honestly. "My family never sat together like that." Kendra frowned slightly. "Like what?" "Just normal." The word came out quieter than intended. Kendra leaned back against the chair slowly, while Naomi held onto her finger. "That's sad." Tom gave a weak shrug. "It was efficient. That sound even sadder." He laughed softly under his breath. "You really judge rich people a lot." "Nah," Kendra replied while adjusting Naomi's blanket. "Just emotionally constipated ones." Tom genuinely laughed at that. Loud enough this time that Naomi started laughing too, despite not understanding anything. The sound filled the hallway warmly, and for a few seconds, Tom forgot about meetings upstairs, forgot about pressure, forgot about deadlines. He just sat there listening to them laugh. Kendra noticed the expression on his face afterward. Not distracted, not stressed, peaceful. That realization sat strangely in her chest, because she was starting to understand something dangerous. Tom did not come downstairs because he needed breaks from work. He came downstairs because he wanted to see her, and deep down, Tom finally admitted the truth to himself, too. Every morning now, he looked for Kendra before he even realized he was doing it. Rain started early that Thursday evening. By 6 o'clock, Washington streets glowed beneath blurred headlights while cold wind pushed water across crowded sidewalks downtown. Most employees rushed out of the building holding umbrellas and laptops against their chests. Kendra stood near the entrance adjusting Naomi's blanket carefully while staring at the street. Her bus never came. She checked the schedule twice already. Still nothing. Naomi rested against her shoulder half asleep while soft rain tapped against the building awning above them. Kendra shifted tiredly. Her feet hurt, her back hurt, and honestly, she was too exhausted to pretend otherwise anymore. "You still waiting?" Tom's voice came from behind her. Kendra turned slightly. He stood there holding his car keys in one hand while loosening his tie with the other. Even after long work days, Tom still looked polished somehow. Kendra hated that rich people could work 12 hours and still not look destroyed. "The bus late," she answered quietly. Tom glanced toward the street. Rain fell harder now. "You been standing here long?" "Little while." Naomi coughed softly against Kendra's shoulder. Tom's expression changed immediately. "You can't keep standing out here with her." "I'm okay. Kendra, I said I'm okay." Tom recognized the tone instantly. Pride, not arrogance. Survival pride. The kind people built after depending on others disappointed them too many times. He softened his voice carefully. "Let me drive you home." Kendra shook her head automatically. "No, why not? Because that's not an answer." She sighed quietly while adjusting Naomi higher against her shoulder. "You already helped enough." Tom studied her face for a second, then finally understood. She was afraid of owing people things. That realization made his chest tighten unexpectedly. "It's just a ride," he said gently. Kendra looked away toward the rain-covered street. Every lesson life taught her said accepting too much kindness from wealthy men usually ended badly. Especially kind wealthy men. Those were the dangerous ones, because they made women lower their guard. Naomi coughed again softly. Kendra closed her eyes briefly. "Okay." Tom walked beside her toward the underground parking garage without another word. The silence between them felt different tonight. Not awkward. Just careful. His SUV looked expensive enough to make Kendra uncomfortable immediately. Clean leather seats, soft interior lighting. The kind of car people stared at during red lights. Kendra climbed inside slowly while trying not to look impressed. Naomi sat quietly in her lap chewing on the sleeve of Kendra's hoodie. Tom started the engine while jazz music played softly through the speakers. For the first few minutes, nobody spoke. Rain moved steadily across the windshield while downtown traffic crawled through the city. Tom glanced toward her briefly. "You always this quiet outside work?" Kendra looked out the window. "You always ask this many questions?" "Probably. That sounds exhausting." Tom smirked faintly. "You should meet my board members." That earned a small laugh from her. Progress. Naomi suddenly stretched toward the front seat, making impatient little noises. Tom glanced in the mirror. "What's she doing?" "She want attention." "From me?" Kendra nodded casually. "You her favorite person in the building now." Tom looked genuinely concerned. "That feel like a lot of pressure. She's 7 months old." "Relax." Naomi kept reaching toward him stubbornly. Tom hesitated, then carefully extended one finger backward near her tiny hand. Naomi grabbed it instantly. Strong little grip. Tom stared down at her fingers wrapped around his quietly. Something warm settled in his chest again. Unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. Kendra noticed the look on his face, and suddenly, seeing Tom like this felt strangely intimate. Not businessman Tom, not serious CEO Tom, just a man sitting in traffic letting a baby hold his finger. The realization made her heartbeat shift slightly. Dangerous territory. Outside, rain hit harder against the windows. Inside the car, warmth slowly settled around them. Tom finally broke the silence again. "What was your family like growing up?" Kendra leaned back slightly. "Loud." Tom looked over. "That's the first word." "Absolutely." She smiled faintly while watching Naomi. "My grandmother raised me mostly. House always full. Cousins everywhere. Music playing all day." Tom listened quietly. "Everybody talked over each other," Kendra continued. "Couldn't finish one sentence without somebody interrupting." "That sounds stressful." "It was fun." Tom smiled slightly at the word fun. His childhood never felt fun. Structured maybe, successful maybe, but never warm. "What about yours?" Kendra asked. Tom kept his eyes on the road. Quiet. That bad? He shrugged lightly. My parents cared more about appearances than feelings. Kendra looked at him carefully after that. No family cookouts? No. No loud arguments? No. No dancing in the kitchen? Tom almost laughed. Definitely not. Kendra stared at him dramatically. Oh, your childhood was tragic. That pulled another real laugh out of him. You judging me again? I'm judging your parents. Tom shook his head, smiling faintly. For a few seconds the car felt lighter. Then they turned into Kendra's neighborhood. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Older apartment buildings, broken streetlights, corner stores with metal gates half pulled down, shopping carts abandoned near sidewalks. Tom slowed slightly near her building, and Kendra noticed his eyes taking everything in. The peeling paint, the cracked stairs, the flickering hallway light near the entrance. Embarrassment crept into her chest instantly. Not because she was ashamed of surviving, because she hated wealthy people seeing how hard survival looked. You don't gotta pretend this place nice, she muttered quietly. Tom parked the SUV carefully. I wasn't. Kendra looked at him. He turned toward her fully for the first time since the drive started. I was thinking you deserve better. The sincerity in his voice caught her completely off guard. No pity, no judgment, just honesty. Kendra looked away quickly before he noticed how deeply those words affected her. Rain continued falling softly outside. Naomi slept quietly against her chest now. The car suddenly felt very small, very warm, very dangerous. Tom's eyes drifted toward her face briefly, then lower. Just for a second, Kendra noticed immediately, and suddenly became very aware of how close they were sitting. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The silence changed. Softer now, heavier. Kendra's heartbeat stumbled once, because for the first time in a very long time, she felt seen as more than somebody struggling to survive. Tom cleared his throat quietly and looked forward again. You should get inside before the rain gets worse. Yeah, she answered softly. But before opening the door, Kendra looked back at him one more time. You're different than I thought. Tom held her gaze for half a second longer than necessary. So are you. The gossip started 3 days later. Quiet at first. Little glances, small smiles from receptionists. 2 women whispering near the elevators before suddenly stopping when Kendra walked by. Office buildings worked like high school with better salaries. People noticed everything, especially when somebody important started changing routines. Kendra felt it immediately that Monday morning. A security guard smirked while she pushed her cart through the lobby. You got fans upstairs now, huh? Kendra frowned slightly. What that's supposed to mean? The man shrugged casually. Nothing, but his expression said otherwise. Kendra kept walking. Still. A knot slowly formed in her stomach. By lunchtime, the whispers became harder to ignore. One assistant from accounting leaned against the coffee station while staring openly at Tom Elking to Kendra near the hallway. I'm just saying, she muttered to another employee. Men like him don't randomly hang around janitors. The other woman laughed quietly. Especially not pretty ones. Kendra heard every word. Her jaw tightened instantly. Tom did not hear it. He was busy making Naomi laugh by pretending her stuffed elephant could talk. Kendra grabbed the cart handle quickly. We should go. Tom looked up, confused. What happened? Nothing, but her voice sounded shorter now. Closed off, Tom noticed immediately. The shift continued all afternoon. Kendra answered questions with one-word replies, avoided eye contact, stopped lingering during conversations. Tom watched the distance growing between them carefully, and honestly, it bothered him more than expected. By 4 o'clock, he finally stopped her near the supply room downstairs. Kendra. She kept organizing cleaning bottles without looking at him. What? Did I do something? No, that didn't sound convincing. Kendra sighed heavily. People talking. Tom's expression hardened slightly. About what? She gave him a look. You know exactly what. Tom leaned against the doorway quietly. For the first time, he noticed how tense she looked. Not angry, guarded, like somebody preparing to protect themselves emotionally before damage arrived. It shouldn't matter what people think, Tom said carefully. Kendra laughed softly. That same tired laugh from their first conversation. Easy for you to say. Tom frowned slightly. What's that mean? She finally looked at him fully. It means wealthy men don't get judged the same way women like me do. The hallway became very quiet after that, because Tom understood exactly what she meant. Race, money, status. America pretended those things mattered less now. but they still shaped rooms before conversations even started. Kendra crossed her arms lightly. I worked hard for people to respect me here. They should respect you. But now they looking at me different. Tom's jaw tightened. That irritated him immediately. Not at her, at everybody else. Because none of those people knew her story. They did not know about missed buses, eviction notices, long shifts, or babies sleeping inside cleaning carts because survival demanded impossible choices. All they saw was a poor black woman speaking regularly to a rich white CEO, and society always attached ugly assumptions to situations like that. Tom stepped closer carefully. I like talking to you. The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. Simple sentence, still. It landed heavily between them. Kendra looked away first. You barely know me. I think I want to. Her heartbeat shifted once. Dangerous sentence. Very dangerous. Because he sounded sincere, not flirtatious, not manipulative, just honest. Kendra hated how much that affected her. Tom studied her quietly for another second, then lowered his voice slightly. You make this building feel less exhausting. That confession surprised even him. Kendra blinked slowly, because suddenly this was not harmless hallway conversation anymore. This was emotional territory, the kind that changed things. Neither spoke for a few seconds. The tension sitting between them felt warm now, heavy, personal. Tom's eyes drifted toward her face briefly, then lower. Kendra noticed instantly, and for one reckless second, she wondered what kissing him would feel like. The thought startled her immediately. Tom looked like he was thinking the exact same thing. Then, Naomi sneezed loudly from inside the cart. Both of them jumped apart instantly. Kendra burst into laughter first, real laughter. Tom rubbed his forehead while laughing too. She got incredible timing. She really do. Naomi babbled proudly from the cart like she interrupted on purpose. The tension cracked just enough for both of them to breathe again. Still, something had changed. Both of them felt it. That evening, Tom attended a fundraising dinner downtown surrounded by investors, executives, and political donors. Everything looked expensive. Crystal glasses, perfect smiles, empty conversations pretending to matter. Tom sat quietly while listening to two investors discuss workplace professionalism across the table. Then one older man chuckled while sipping whiskey. Heard one of your janitors bringing babies to work now. Tom's fork stopped moving immediately. Another man smirked. Careful with situations like that. Some people know exactly how to get sympathy from rich executives. A woman beside them laughed softly. Especially attractive women. Tom slowly placed his glass down. The irritation in his chest turned sharp instantly, because suddenly he pictured Kendra standing in cold rain holding Naomi against her chest while waiting for a late bus. He remembered the exhaustion hidden behind her smile, the pride she carried despite struggling. None of these people knew her, yet they judged her effortlessly. Tom looked around the table calmly. She's one of the hardest working people in that building. The conversation quieted immediately. And if any of you spent 1 week surviving what she survives, Tom continued evenly, you probably wouldn't handle it half as well. Nobody spoke after that. But for the rest of the dinner, Tom could not stop thinking about her. Tom left the fundraising dinner earlier than expected. The investors barely noticed. Most of them stayed busy drinking expensive whiskey and pretending conversations mattered more than appearances. Outside, cold air hit his face the second he stepped onto the sidewalk. Washington glowed around him beneath streetlights and passing headlights. Black SUVs rolled through downtown traffic. People in expensive coats hurried between restaurants and hotels. The city looked alive. Tom somehow felt completely disconnected from it. His driver opened the car door quickly. Tom slid into the back seat silently while loosening his tie. Usually after events like this, he reviewed emails during the drive home. Tonight he stared out the window instead, thinking about Kendra, again. That irritated him slightly. Not because he disliked thinking about her. Because he could not stop. The investors' comments kept replaying in his head too, especially the way they talked about her like she was some opportunist trying to manipulate wealthy men. Those people had no idea who Kendra really was. They never saw her kissing Naomi's forehead while thinking nobody noticed. Never saw her skipping lunch quietly. Never saw the exhaustion she carried without complaining. Tom rubbed his jaw slowly. The truth bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Most wealthy people he knew lacked the kind of strength Kendra showed every day, including him sometimes. His phone buzzed suddenly. His mother. Tom stared at the screen briefly before answering. "You disappeared," she said immediately. "I left. I noticed." Tom leaned his head back against the seat. "What do you need?" A short silence followed. Then came that careful, controlled tone wealthy families used whenever conversations became personal. "I heard certain rumors tonight." Of course she did. People in Washington treated gossip like currency. Tom looked out the window again. "What rumors?" "That you've become emotionally involved with someone working in your building." Tom's expression hardened slightly. "She has a name." His mother paused. "Tom, her name is Kendra." Another silence. Longer this time. Then finally, "You need to think carefully." "There it is. I'm serious." "So am I." His mother exhaled softly through the phone. "You work too hard to let emotions complicate your judgment." Tom almost laughed at that, because emotions had never been welcomed in his family. Only achievements, only appearances, only success. His entire childhood revolved around performance, perfect grades, perfect manners, perfect public image. Nobody asked if he felt lonely growing up. Nobody cared whether he felt understood, as long as everything looked successful from the outside. Tom looked through the rain-streaked window quietly. "You know what's interesting?" he asked softly. "What?" "She's one of the only people who talks to me like I'm human first." His mother sounded frustrated now. "You barely know this woman." "I know enough. You're being reckless." "No," Tom answered calmly. "I think I'm finally being honest." The line went quiet after that. Then his mother changed the subject completely. Classic avoidance. Tom ended the call 3 minutes later feeling strangely exhausted. Not angry, just tired. Tired of conversations built around status instead of sincerity. The SUV eventually pulled into the underground garage beneath his luxury condo building. Tom stepped inside his apartment quietly. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. Everything looked expensive. Modern furniture, designer lighting, perfect organization, and absolutely no warmth. The silence inside hit him immediately. No laughter, no music, no life. Tom loosened his cuffs while walking toward the kitchen. Normally he enjoyed the quiet. Tonight it felt empty. Meanwhile, 30 minutes away across the city, Kendra sat cross-legged on her apartment floor wearing oversized sweatpants, while Naomi crawled clumsily across a thin blanket near the couch. Old R&B music played softly from her phone speaker. The apartment looked small and worn. Laundry baskets sat near the wall waiting to be folded. The radiator clicked loudly every few minutes. Somebody upstairs argued loudly enough to hear through the ceiling. Still, the apartment felt alive. Kendra laughed quietly as Naomi attempted to chew on the stuffed elephant again. "Girl, that elephant been through enough," Naomi squealed proudly. Kendra shook her head, smiling. Moments like this helped her breathe, even after difficult days, even after embarrassing whispers at work. Naomi always pulled her back emotionally. That baby needed food, love, stability. There was no time to fall apart for too long. Still, Kendra found herself thinking about Tom more lately. Too much, honestly. The way he defended her, the way he listened carefully when she spoke, the way he looked uncomfortable whenever rich people acted cruel. It confused her. Because men with money usually made women like Kendra feel invisible, Tom somehow did the opposite, and that scared her. Kendra leaned against the couch while Naomi climbed clumsily into her lap. "You making Mama nervous," she whispered softly to the baby. Naomi grabbed her hoodie strings immediately. Kendra laughed under her breath. Then her phone buzzed beside her. She looked down. "Tom." A strange warmth moved through her chest instantly. The message was simple. "You awake?" Kendra stared at the message longer than she should have. "You awake?" Simple words. Still. Her heartbeat shifted slightly the second she saw his name. Naomi sat in her lap chewing aggressively on the stuffed elephant, while cartoon sounds played fiddly from the television nearby. The apartment smelled faintly like baby lotion and garlic noodles she made earlier. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. Kendra typed a response slowly, trying to get Naomi asleep. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. "Can I call?" Kendra hesitated. That nervous feeling returned again. Not fear exactly, just awareness, because every conversation with Tom seemed to matter more lately. And that was dangerous. Still, she typed, "Okay." A few seconds later, his voice filled the room softly. "Hey." Something about hearing him outside the office felt different, more personal, less guarded. "Hey," she answered quietly. For a moment neither spoke. Not awkward silence, just two people suddenly aware of each other in a different way. Tom broke it first. "How was your night?" Kendra looked down at Naomi fighting sleep in her lap. "Long. That bad? Landlord taped another warning on my door this morning." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Kendra immediately regretted saying it. She hated sounding vulnerable, especially around men. But Tom did not respond with pity. He stayed quiet for a second before asking gently, "You okay?" Kendra laughed softly under her breath. Not because anything felt funny, because nobody really asked her that anymore. People asked, "Did you pay this? Can you work extra hours? Can you cover this shift?" But not that. Not something human. Naomi babbled sleepily while pulling at Kendra's sleeve. Kendra rubbed her back carefully. "Honestly?" she whispered. "I don't know." Tom leaned back against the couch inside his apartment quietly. The city lights behind him reflected across giant windows stretching from floor to ceiling. Everything inside his condo looked expensive, and none of it made the silence feel smaller. He could hear tiny baby noises through the phone, soft movement, fabric shifting, Kendra humming quietly under her breath while comforting Naomi. The sound affected him more than expected, because nobody had sounded that gentle around him in a very long time. "You know what's weird?" Tom said quietly. "What?" "I spend entire days surrounded by people, and still feel alone most of the time." Kendra listened carefully, not interrupting. Tom rarely admitted personal things openly. "I thought money fixed that eventually," she said softly. Tom gave a quiet laugh. "It just gives people prettier ways to hide loneliness." That sentence sat heavily between them. Kendra adjusted Naomi higher against her chest while staring toward the ceiling. "I used to think having a baby would make me feel less alone," she admitted quietly. Tom stayed silent, listening. That sound terrible out loud? "No," he answered gently. "It sounds honest." Kendra swallowed carefully. "Nobody tells women how lonely motherhood can get sometimes." Her voice softened further now. "Everybody posts cute pictures online, but nobody talk about crying in bathrooms because you hosted." Tom closed his eyes briefly. Something painful moved through his chest hearing that. Not because he understood motherhood, because he understood isolation. Different kind, same emptiness. Kendra laughed shakily under her breath. "Listen to me oversharing. You're not—" Naomi suddenly started fussing louder. Kendra stood slowly while balancing the phone against her shoulder. "Hold on." Tom listened quietly while hearing her move around the apartment. Cabinet opening, bottle warming, floor creaking softly beneath her steps. Small, ordinary sounds, but strangely comforting. He realized something then. This conversation felt more real than most interactions he had all week. Kendra finally settled back onto the couch while feeding Naomi. "She teething," she explained tiredly. "That painful?" "For everybody involved." Tom smiled faintly to himself. "You sound exhausted." "I am exhausted." There was no pretending anymore now. No polished answers, no emotional armor, just honesty. And somehow, that honesty made both of them feel safer. Tom loosened his collar slightly while staring out across Washington. "Can I tell you something without sounding crazy?" Kendra smiled faintly. "That depend on how crazy. I think hearing your voice became part of my day." The room went very quiet after that. Kendra looked down immediately, because those words reached somewhere dangerous inside her. Not flashy, not smooth, just sincere. And sincerity was always harder to defend against. Tom exhaled softly afterward. "See? Crazy." "No," Kendra answered quietly. "Just honest." Naomi finally started drifting asleep against her chest. Kendra kissed the baby's forehead automatically. Tom heard the tiny kiss through the phone speaker, and suddenly something shifted painfully inside him, because for one reckless second, he imagined what it would feel like coming home to warmth like that every night. Not silence, not empty luxury. Life, family, connection. The thought scared him slightly. Kendra noticed his breathing change. "You still there?" "Yeah, you got quiet." Tom rubbed his jaw slowly. "Just thinking." Dangerous activity. That earned a soft laugh from him. Then silence settled again. Gentler this time. Kendra looked around her tiny apartment quietly. Laundry unfolded nearby. Bills stacked beside the microwave. Baby bottles drying near the sink. Nothing about her life looked impressive. Still, for the first time in months, she did not feel invisible. That realization hit unexpectedly hard. Her eyes suddenly burned. Kendra blinked quickly, but the tears came anyway, small tired tears sliding quietly down her face while Naomi slept against her chest. Tom heard the shift in her breathing immediately. "Kendra?" She covered her eyes with one hand. "I'm okay. You crying?" Kendra laughed shakily through the tears. "That embarrassing. No, it's not." She tried speaking again. Nothing came out properly. Tom stayed quiet after that, not rushing her, not trying to solve things, just staying there, present, and honestly, that made her cry harder, because most people left the second emotions became inconvenient. Tom didn't. He simply stayed on the phone with her quietly while she cried. The next morning, Kendra woke up exhausted. Not physically, emotionally. The phone conversation with Tom stayed in her head long after they finally said goodnight, especially the way he stayed quiet while she cried. No judgment, no awkwardness, no fake advice, just presence. That alone felt unfamiliar. Kendra adjusted Naomi against her shoulder while standing inside the tiny kitchen warming a bottle before work. The apartment looked rough in the early morning light, peeling paint near the window, bills sitting unopened beside the microwave, one kitchen chair slightly crooked from being repaired too many times. Still, Naomi smiled the second she saw her mother looking stressed. That little girl somehow always knew. "You trying to keep Mama together?" Kendra whispered softly. Naomi laughed loudly. Kendra kissed her forehead immediately. "Yeah, me too." By 7:30, downtown Washington had already filled with rushing employees and blaring affect. Inside the office building, Kendra pushed her cleaning cart carefully through the executive hallway, while fighting exhaustion behind her eyes. She barely slept. Again, the hallway smelled like coffee and fresh printer paper. Phones rang endlessly from nearby offices. Elevator doors opened and closed every few seconds. Normal morning. Still, something felt heavier today. Kendra tried ignoring the pressure building inside her chest, until she opened her bag during break and saw the eviction notice again. Final warning. The word sat there like a threat. Rent overdue. Payment required immediately. Failure to comply would result in removal proceedings. Kendra stared at the paper silently, then folded it quickly before anybody nearby noticed. Her chest tightened. How much longer could she keep surviving like this? She worked full time, barely slept, skipped meals sometimes, and still life kept pushing harder. Naomi babbled softly from inside the cart while playing with the stuffed elephant. Kendra forced herself to smile for the baby, but her eyes burned instantly. "Not here, please not here." She grabbed the cart quickly and moved toward the supply closet near the service hallway before the tears fully came. The tiny room smelled like bleach and paper towels. Kendra closed the door behind herself quietly, then finally covered her face. Everything hit at once. The rent, the exhaustion, the whispers at work, the fear of losing everything. She tried staying quiet, really tried, but one broken sound escaped her anyway. And unfortunately, Tom heard it. He had been walking downstairs looking for her without even realizing it again. The second he passed the supply closet, he stopped, because something in that sound felt wrong immediately. "Kendra?" No answer. Tom pushed the door open carefully, then froze. Kendra stood near the shelves with her face turned away while trying unsuccessfully to wipe tears quickly. The eviction notice sat crumpled in her hand. Tom's expression changed instantly. "Kendra, I'm fine." The lie sounded fragile. Tom stepped inside slowly. "No, you're not." Kendra looked away immediately. Humiliation crawled through her chest. She hated crying in front of people, especially him. "I said I'm okay." Tom glanced down at the paper in her hand, then back at her face. The exhaustion there looked deeper today, like she had finally reached her limit emotionally. "Kendra," he said gently, "talk to me." That almost broke her again. Because nobody ever said those words like they genuinely meant them. Kendra laughed shakily under her breath while wiping her cheeks angrily. "I'm tired." Tom stayed quiet, letting her continue. She swallowed hard. "I'm so tired of struggling every single day." Naomi made soft noises from the cart outside the closet. Kendra looked toward the door immediately. Even now, motherhood came first automatically. Tom noticed that too. Always Naomi first. Always. "I can handle hard work," Kendra whispered, "but it feel like life keep moving the finish line every time I get close." Tom's chest tightened painfully hearing that, because she sounded defeated for the first time since he met her. And somehow, that hurt him, more than it should have. You know what the worst part is? She asked quietly. Tom shook his head once. Kendra laughed softly again through the tears. I don't even got time to fall apart properly. That sentence hit him hard, because it was true. She carried pressure constantly, still showed up, still protected Naomi, still smiled sometimes. Tom stepped closer carefully. Kendra, she looked up finally, eyes red, guard completely lowered now, and for one dangerous moment, everything emotional between them sat exposed. No jokes, no distractions, no hallway small talk, just honesty. Tom lifted one hand slowly, carefully, giving her enough time to pull away if she wanted. But Kendra didn't move. His fingers brushed gently beneath her eye, wiping away another tear. The touch felt impossibly soft. Kendra stopped breathing for half a second. Tom looked at her like she was something fragile and strong at the same time. And honestly, nobody had ever looked at her that way before. Kendra, he said quietly, I need you to know something. Her heartbeat stumbled. What? Tom swallowed once, then answered honestly, You matter to me. The room became very still. Kendra stared at him silently, because every survival instinct inside her said not to believe beautiful words too quickly. But Tom did not sound rehearsed. He sounded terrified, real, and somehow, that made it worse. Kendra stepped closer before she could overthink it. Just slightly. Tom's eyes dropped toward her lips instinctively, then back to her eyes, waiting, giving her a choice. Kendra made it for both of them. She kissed him first, soft, careful, shaky at the beginning. Tom kissed her back immediately, one hand gently against her face while months of tension finally broke open between them. The kiss deepened slowly. Warmth, relief, loneliness finally touching something safe. Kendra's fingers tightened slightly against his jacket. Tom breathed her in like somebody finally exhaling after holding tension too long. Then, Naomi squealed loudly from outside the closet. Both of them jumped apart instantly. Silence. Then Kendra started laughing through leftover tears. Tom covered his face, briefly laughing too. She really interrupted everything, Kendra said breathlessly. Tom shook his head, smiling. Perfect timing, Naomi babbled proudly from the cart again. Tom looked back at Kendra afterward. Longer this time. No hiding now, no pretending. Just truth sitting openly between them. And quietly, carefully, Tom said the words already growing inside him for weeks. I'm falling in love with you. The days after the kiss felt different immediately. Not dramatic, not awkward, just softer. Tom started lingering longer after work instead of rushing home. Kendra stopped pretending she did not wait for his footsteps in the hallway every morning. And Naomi? Naomi acted like she had been emotionally invested in this relationship from the beginning. The baby smiled every single time Tom appeared, sometimes before he even spoke. You got a tiny stalker, Kendra muttered one afternoon while Naomi bounced excitedly inside her stroller near the service hallway. Tom crouched slightly in front of the baby. That true? Naomi grabbed his tie instantly. See? Kendra laughed. Obsessed. Tom shook his head, while carefully untangling tiny fingers from his tie. She aggressive. She like me. That explains a lot. Kendra rolled her eyes while trying unsuccessfully not to smile. Moments like this became normal surprisingly fast. Coffee in the mornings, conversations during breaks, Tom bringing Naomi small toys whenever he traveled between meetings. Nothing expensive. Little things. A stuffed rabbit, colorful stacking cups, tiny socks with cartoon bears. Kendra noticed that detail immediately. Most wealthy people tried solving problems by throwing money at them. Tom paid attention instead. That mattered more. One Saturday afternoon, Tom drove across Southeast D.C. for the first time in years. Kendra sat beside him holding Naomi, while giving directions through narrow neighborhood streets lined with row houses and corner stores. You look nervous, she said, while noticing his grip tightening slightly against the steering wheel. I'm trying not to hit potholes. That one valid. Tom glanced around carefully. Kids played basketball near a park fence despite cold weather. Music drifted faintly from somebody's apartment window upstairs. Two older women argued loudly across a balcony while laughing at the same time. The neighborhood looked worn in places, but alive, very alive. Kendra noticed him observing everything quietly. You judging? Tom looked over immediately. No, most rich people do. I'm not most rich people. Kendra studied him for a second after that, because honestly, he was proving that more every day. When they finally reached her apartment building, Tom climbed out carrying Naomi carefully against his chest. The baby rested comfortably there like she already trusted him completely. That sight affected Kendra more than she expected, because Tom never acted uncomfortable around Naomi, never impatient, never distant. He treated her daughter like somebody important. That mattered deeply to Kendra whether she admitted it out loud or not. Inside the apartment, Tom looked around quietly while Kendra kicked the door shut behind them. Laundry baskets sat near the couch again. A small fan rattled loudly near the kitchen. The radiator clicked every few seconds like usual. Nothing looked impressive. Still, Tom immediately relaxed, which surprised him. Kendra noticed too. "You know what weird?" she asked while taking Naomi from him gently. "What? You look more comfortable here than in your office." Tom loosened his jacket slowly. "That probably not a good sign." "No, it probably is." Naomi started making impatient noises immediately. Kendra laughed softly. "She hungry." Tom watched while Kendra moved naturally around the kitchen, warming a bottle one-handed while balancing Naomi easily against her hip. Everything looked automatic now. Practiced. Like motherhood had reshaped her entire body around responsibility. Tom leaned quietly against the counter. "You ever get scared?" he asked suddenly. Kendra glanced back. "About what?" "All this," she smiled faintly. "You gotta narrow that down." Tom looked toward Naomi carefully. "Depending on people." The honesty in his voice caught her attention immediately, because that did not sound like a wealthy, successful man speaking. That sounded like somebody carrying old damage quietly. Kendra sat beside him on the couch after feeding Naomi. "You want to know something?" she asked softly. Tom nodded once. The strongest people usually scared the most. He looked at her carefully after that. Kendra continued gently. "People who've been hurt before are always waiting for things to disappear." The room became quiet. Not uncomfortable, just honest. Tom stared toward the floor briefly before speaking again. "My ex-fiancée left 3 years ago." Kendra stayed still. "She said I treated life like a business meeting," he admitted quietly. "Honestly, she wasn't all—" Kendra listened carefully. No interruption, no judgment. Tom rubbed his hands together slowly. "I got good at controlling everything except relationships. That because relationships, not controllable," Kendra replied softly. Tom laughed quietly under his breath. "See? That exactly the kind of sentence that would ruin a boardroom." Kendra smiled. "That because boardrooms don't know nothing about love." Naomi suddenly crawled clumsily between them, holding the stuffed elephant upside down. Tom looked down immediately. The baby reached toward him without hesitation. And without thinking, Tom opened his arms automatically. Naomi settled comfortably against his chest. Like she belonged there. Tom froze slightly after realizing how natural that felt. Kendra noticed too, and something warm moved quietly through her chest. Because for the first time in years, this apartment no longer felt lonely. Later that evening, while Naomi slept against him during a movie neither of them were paying attention to, Tom looked around the tiny apartment silently. The rattling fan, the warm lamplight, Kendra sitting beside him barefoot beneath a blanket, Naomi sleeping peacefully on his chest, and for one dangerous moment, Tom started imagining what life would feel like if this became permanent. The problem with happiness was how visible it became, especially in places built around power and appearances. By the second week after the kiss, people inside the office building stopped pretending not to notice the change between Tom and Kendra. It showed in small ways. Tom waiting downstairs longer than necessary after meetings, Kendra smiling at her phone during breaks, Naomi reaching excitedly toward him every morning like she expected him now. People noticed patterns quickly. And unfortunately, people talked even faster. Kendra felt the shift everywhere. Receptionists suddenly becoming overly friendly. Executives staring too long while passing through hallways. Women whispering near elevators before going silent whenever she approached. Even security guards looked at her differently now. Not cruel exactly, but curious. Like they were trying to figure out how a janitor became emotionally connected to a millionaire. Kendra hated that feeling immediately, because suddenly every interaction felt watched. One afternoon near the break room, 2 assistants stopped talking mid-conversation when Kendra entered carrying cleaning supplies. Then one woman forced an awkward smile. "How's Mr. Tom doing today?" Kendra's stomach tightened instantly. She kept her expression neutral. "He fine." The other woman smirked slightly. Kendra grabbed paper towels quickly, before leaving without another word. Her chest burned the entire walk back downstairs, because this was exactly what she feared. Not heartbreak. Humiliation. Women like Kendra learned early how society viewed situations like this. If a wealthy man showed interest in a struggling woman, people rarely believed it was genuine. Either she was using him, or he was temporarily entertained. Nobody imagined real emotional connection. By evening, Kendra barely spoke during her usual conversation with Tom near the service hallway. Tom noticed immediately. "You okay?" "Yeah, that sounded fake. I'm tired." Tom studied her carefully. Not physically tired this time. Emotionally withdrawn. Again. What happened? Kendra kept organizing cleaning supplies instead of looking at him. "Nothing. Kendra." She stopped moving for a second, then sighed heavily. "I don't like people talking about me." Tom's expression tightened slightly. "Who?" "Everybody." Naomi sat inside the stroller nearby, chewing on one of her toys, while looking back and forth between them curiously. Tom stepped closer carefully. "You care too much what people think." Kendra looked up immediately. "And you don't care enough." The words landed harder than she intended. Tom went quiet. Kendra rubbed her forehead tiredly. "You don't understand what this looked like from my side." "Then explain it to me." The frustration in her chest finally surfaced. "People already assume things about women like me," she admitted quietly, "especially black women around rich white men." Tom stayed silent, listening carefully. "They think I'm trying to get something from you. You're not. I know that. But they don't." Tom looked genuinely angry now. "Why should that matter?" "Because I still gotta walk through this building every day after you leave." That sentence hit him immediately, because she was right. Tom could escape gossip easier. Kendra lived inside its consequences. The hallway became quiet except for Naomi babbling softly to herself nearby. Kendra crossed her arms tightly. "I worked hard for people to respect me here, and they should, but now I feel like some story everybody watching." Tom rubbed his jaw slowly. For the first time, he realized how different public judgment looked depending on who carried it. His wealthy friends would joke about him dating beneath his status. Kendra risked being reduced to stereotypes completely. That realization made him angrier than before. Not at her. At the world. Tom stepped closer carefully. "I don't care what those people think." Kendra laughed softly under her breath. "That because nobody questioning your dignity." The honesty in her voice hurt. Because again, she was right. Tom looked away briefly before answering quietly. "You think I'm embarrassed by you?" Kendra immediately shook her head. "No. Then what?" Her eyes lowered toward the floor. "I'm scared one day you will be—" The hallway suddenly felt much smaller after that confession. Tom stared at her carefully, because underneath all her guarded behavior, there it was, fear, real fear, not of poverty, not of gossip, of abandonment, of eventually becoming something temporary in his life. Tom stepped forward slowly until barely any space remained between them. "Kendra," she looked up reluctantly. "I need you to hear me clearly." His voice stayed calm. "Certain, I have never once looked at you and felt embarrassed." Kendra swallowed carefully. Tom continued softly. "You know what I actually feel?" Her heartbeat shifted once. "What?" "Peace." The word hit her unexpectedly hard. Before she could respond, Tom's phone suddenly buzzed loudly. He checked the screen. His expression darkened immediately. Kendra noticed. "What happened?" Tom locked the screen again. "My mother invited me to dinner tomorrow." Kendra gave a faint, humorless smile. "That sounds serious." "You have no idea." The tension lingered between them afterward. Not resolved, just exposed now. Later the next evening, Tom attended dinner inside one of Washington's most expensive restaurants, surrounded by wealthy family friends and business connections. Everything looked polished, perfect, controlled, and halfway through dinner, somebody casually asked, "So, are the rumors true about you and the janitor?" The table grew quieter immediately. Tom placed his glass down slowly. One older businessman chuckled. "Careful, Tom. These situations can get messy publicly." Another woman smiled too tightly. "You've always dated sophisticated women before." There it was, the insult hiding inside politeness. Tom looked around the table calmly, then answered without hesitation. "Kendra is one of the strongest, kindest people I've ever met." Silence. His mother's expression changed instantly. But Tom kept going. "And if anybody here thinks her job determines her value—" He leaned back slightly. "Then honestly, I feel sorry for you." After the dinner with his family, something inside Tom shifted permanently. Not loudly, not dramatically, just clearly. For years he built his entire life around achievement, schedules, growth, control, everything measured by performance. But sitting at that restaurant listening to wealthy people reduce Kendra to her job title had forced him to confront something uncomfortable. Most of the world he came from did not actually understand love. They understood status, connections, presentation, but not warmth, not loyalty, not sacrifice, and definitely not the kind of strength Kendra carried every day. 3 nights later, Tom found himself standing inside Kendra's apartment kitchen assembling a crib mobile at almost 10 o'clock at night. Badly, very badly. "This thing evil," he muttered while struggling with tiny plastic pieces. Kendra sat cross-legged on the couch laughing quietly while folding baby clothes nearby. "You got 2 master's degrees and losing a fight to cartoon giraffes." Tom frowned at the instructions. "These directions make no sense." Naomi sat in the middle of the floor surrounded by toys, happily chewing on one sock she somehow stole from the laundry pile. Kendra pointed immediately. "Naomi!" The baby froze dramatically, then slowly hid the sock behind her back. Tom stared at her. "She just lied to us." "She absolutely did." Naomi smiled proudly like deception counted as a life skill. Tom laughed under his breath while shaking his head. Moments like this kept happening lately. Little ordinary moments, and somehow they affected him more deeply than anything expensive ever had. Tom finally attached the last piece of the mobile crookedly. Kendra stared at it. "That thing leaning, it builds character." It looked confused. Tom walked toward the couch pretending to defend himself, while Kendra laughed harder. The sound filled the apartment warmly. No tension, no pressure, just comfort. Tom dropped beside her on the couch tiredly. Naomi immediately crawled toward him without hesitation. That had become normal too. The baby reached for Tom constantly now. His hands, his tie, his watch, even his face sometimes. And Tom responded automatically every single time. Like his body stopped treating her like somebody else's child. Kendra noticed that more than he realized. She watched the way Naomi relaxed instantly against his chest. The way Tom checked bottle temperatures carefully now without being told. The way he instinctively lowered his voice whenever the baby slept nearby. Little things, consistent things, reliable things, that mattered deeply to Kendra, because Naomi's father never stayed long enough to learn any of those details. Tom adjusted Naomi carefully against his shoulder while the baby rested sleepily there. "You know what's scary?" he asked quietly. Kendra looked over. "What? This feels natural." Her chest tightened softly, not from fear, from emotion. Tom stared down at Naomi's tiny fingers gripping his shirt. "I spent years convincing myself I didn't need this kind of life." Kendra stayed quiet, letting him continue. "I thought relationships complicated everything." He smiled faintly toward Naomi. "Now this tiny person got me buying stuffed animals and learning baby sleep schedules. That how they get you?" Tom laughed quietly. Then his expression softened again. "I think I was scared." Kendra watched him carefully now. "Of what?" Tom leaned back slightly against the couch. "Turning into my father." The honesty in his voice changed the atmosphere immediately. No joking now, just truth. Tom rubbed Naomi's back gently while speaking. "My father provided everything financially growing up." He paused briefly. "But emotionally, he was never really there." Kendra listened carefully. Tom rarely opened old wounds openly. "I used to think success meant becoming untouchable," he admitted quietly. "No weakness, no dependence, no vulnerability. And now?" Tom looked down at Naomi sleeping against him. "Now I think I was just lonely." The room became quiet after that. Not heavy, just intimate. Kendra slowly moved closer beside him on the couch until her shoulder rested lightly against his arm. Tom relaxed immediately without realizing it. That detail affected her deeply too, because guarded people only softened when they finally felt safe. Kendra looked toward Naomi. "You know she gonna love you forever now, right?" Tom smiled faintly. "That feel like a threat?" "It is." Naomi suddenly made sleepy little noises while stretching against his chest. Tom instinctively adjusted her blanket carefully. Again, automatic now. Kendra watched silently, and for the first time since becoming a mother, she allowed herself to imagine stability emotionally. Not survival, not temporary happiness, real stability. The thought scared her slightly, but less than before. Outside, rain tapped softly against the apartment windows while old music played low through Kendra's phone speaker. The radiator clicked again near the wall. Somebody upstairs dropped something loudly. Normal apartment sounds. Normal life. Tom looked around slowly, at the tiny kitchen, the unfolded laundry, Kendra beside him, Naomi asleep against his chest. Nothing about this place matched the world he came from. Still, he had never felt calmer anywhere else. Tom looked at Kendra quietly, then softly admitted the truth already settling deep inside him. This feels like home, for the first time in years. Kendra started feeling emotionally safe. And honestly, that terrified her more than struggle ever did. Struggle made sense. Bills, stress, exhaustion, disappointment. She understood those things. But peace? Peace felt temporary. Like something life eventually took back. 3 nights after Tom admitted the apartment felt like home, Kendra stood alone inside the kitchen rinsing baby bottles while Naomi slept nearby in her crib. Rain tapped softly against the windows again. The apartment lights stayed low. Tom sat quietly on the couch, answering work emails from his laptop while waiting for a late conference call. Normal evening. Still, something inside Kendra felt restless. Tom noticed it almost immediately, because lately he had started learning her silences too. The quiet ones meant tiredness. The shorter ones meant stress. This silence felt different. He closed the laptop slowly. "You okay?" Kendra kept rinsing the same bottle longer than necessary. "Yeah." Tom leaned back, watching her carefully. "That one fake too?" A faint smile touched her face briefly, then disappeared again. Tom stood slowly before walking toward the kitchen. Kendra avoided eye contact immediately. That worried him. "What happened?" "Nothing happened. Kendra..." She sighed softly. Not annoyed, just emotionally exhausted. Tom waited patiently. Finally, she dried her hands slowly with a towel before speaking. "You ever think about how fast people change their minds?" Tom frowned slightly. "About what?" "Love." The answer caught him off guard. Kendra leaned against the counter quietly. "I used to think Naomi's father loved me." Tom stayed silent. This was the first time she brought him up willingly. Kendra stared down toward the sink while speaking carefully. Everything felt real in the beginning. Her voice remained calm, too calm. The kind people use when discussing pain they already cried through privately. He talked about family, future, being there. Tom listened without interruption. Kendra laughed softly under her breath. "Funny thing is, people always leave slow before they leave completely." Tom's chest tightened hearing that, because suddenly he understood something important. Kendra was not afraid of love itself. She was afraid of trusting stability, afraid of relaxing emotionally just long enough for somebody to disappear afterward. "He stopped answering calls when I got pregnant," she admitted quietly. Tom looked down briefly. "She spent her first Christmas with just me." The room became painfully quiet after that. Kendra rubbed her arm slowly. "You know what messed me up the most?" Tom shook his head once. He promised he was different too. That sentence landed hard. Because now Tom understood why Kendra kept hesitating emotionally even after everything between them deepened. This was not insecurity. This was survival memory. Tom stepped closer carefully. "Kendra." She looked away immediately. "I know you, not him." "Then why you saying it like that?" Her eyes filled slightly before she blinked quickly. Because this conversation scared her. Not because she doubted Tom cared. Because she finally cared enough to lose something. Kendra laughed weakly under her breath. "I hate feeling this attached to somebody again." Tom's expression softened instantly. The honesty in her voice hurt. Not dramatic hurt. Quiet hurt, real hurt. Tom reached for her hand slowly. This time she let him hold it immediately. No hesitation, no guarding, just tired honesty. "I don't know how to do this perfectly," Tom admitted quietly. Kendra finally looked at him. "But I know leaving you would destroy me too." That cracked something inside her immediately. Because wealthy men were supposed to sound confident, certain, untouchable. Tom sounded vulnerable, and somehow that made her trust him more. Naomi suddenly made sleepy noises through the baby monitor nearby. Both of them looked toward the sound automatically. Tiny moment, still important, because neither of them reacted alone anymore. Tom squeezed Kendra's hand gently, then spoke carefully. "I spent most of my life running from emotional responsibility." Kendra stayed quiet, listening. "My father taught me work mattered more than connection." Tom shook his head faintly. "But every day with you and Naomi makes that feel more wrong." Kendra's eyes burned again. Tom stepped closer until barely any space remained between them. No walls now, no pretending. Just truth. "I know somebody hurt you before," he said softly. "I know you expecting this to disappear eventually." Kendra swallowed carefully. Because yes, part of her still expected loss. Tom lifted his hand gently against her face. Steady, present, not temporary. Then quietly, firmly, he gave her the one truth she needed most. "I'm not him." Spring arrived quietly in Washington. The cold air softened first. Then the trees changed. Within days, pale pink cherry blossoms stretched across the city like watercolor paint scattered through the streets. Tourists crowded sidewalks near the National Mall, carrying cameras and coffee cups, while children ran beneath falling petals laughing like they had discovered magic. For the first time in months, Kendra was not rushing somewhere. That Saturday afternoon she sat on a blanket beneath a cherry blossom tree while Naomi awed clumsily between stuffed toys near her legs. Soft wind moved through the park gently. Music drifted faintly from somebody's speaker nearby. Tom returned carrying lemonade and sandwiches from a food truck across the street. Naomi spotted him immediately. The baby squealed loudly before throwing both hands into the air dramatically. Tom laughed under his breath. "That enthusiastic welcome feel unnecessary." "She missed you," Kendra replied softly. "I was gone 6 minutes." Naomi kept bouncing impatiently until Tom sat beside them, then immediately climbed into his lap like she belonged there. That sight no longer surprised Kendra anymore. Somewhere along the way, Tom became part of Naomi's sense of safety, and honestly, he looked just as attached. Tom balanced Naomi carefully against his chest while opening the lemonade with one hand. "You know she getting spoiled now, right?" Kendra smiled faintly. "That absolutely your fault." "False accusations." Naomi grabbed his straw instantly. Tom sighed dramatically. "See, robbery." Kendra laughed softly while leaning back against the blanket. The sunlight touched her face warmly through the trees overhead. Tom looked at her for half a second longer than necessary. Not because she was dressed up, not because she was trying to impress anybody. Actually, that was what affected him most. Kendra looked beautiful when she forgot the world was judging her. And today, for once, she looked peaceful. That realization stayed heavy in his chest. Kendra noticed him staring eventually. "What?" Tom blinked slightly. "Nothing." "That wasn't nothing." He smiled faintly before looking down at Naomi chewing aggressively on the lemonade straw wrapper. "She definitely got your attitude." Kendra laughed. "Poor baby." Naomi smacked the wrapper against Tom's chest proudly. Tom looked personally offended. "You raising a tiny criminal?" "She adapting to inflation." That pulled another real laugh from him. The sound mixed softly with the noise of the park around them, and honestly, Tom could not remember the last time he felt this relaxed. No board meetings, no pressure, no investors, just sunlight, cherry blossoms, Kendra beside him, Naomi fighting invisible enemies with a straw wrapper. Simple things, but somehow, those simple things felt more meaningful than most of the expensive experiences he spent years acing. A group of tourists walked nearby taking pictures beneath the trees. One older woman smiled warmly while passing them. "Beautiful family," she said casually, then kept walking before either of them could respond. Silence followed immediately afterward. Kendra looked down quickly. Tom's chest tightened softly. Neither corrected the woman, and somehow, that felt important. Naomi suddenly crawled toward Kendra holding half the sandwich bread she stole from Tom. Kendra laughed immediately. "Girl." Too late. Naomi shoved the crushed bread directly against Kendra's shirt proudly. Tom laughed harder now. "That definitely intentional." Kendra stared at the baby dramatically. "You paying for laundry?" Naomi squealed happily. Tom watched them quietly afterward, really watched them. Kendra trying unsuccessfully to stay annoyed while cleaning crumbs from Naomi's fingers. Naomi smiling every time Kendra looked frustrated. Tiny interactions. Still, they felt deeply intimate, like witnessing a kind of love built through exhaustion, patience, and consistency instead of perfection. Tom suddenly realized something uncomfortable. For years he thought success meant becoming untouchable. Money, status, control. He built entire companies trying to reach that feeling. And yet, sitting here beneath cherry blossoms with sandwich crumbs on his jacket, he felt more successful than he ever had inside a boardroom. The realization hit him hard. Kendra noticed his expression shift slightly. "You thinking again?" Tom glanced toward her. "That obvious? You get this look." "What look?" "Like your brain trying to solve emotional math." Tom laughed quietly under his breath. That sounds exhausting. It probably is. The wind moved softly through the trees again, sending loose petals drifting around the blanket. Naomi reached upward, trying unsuccessfully to catch them. Tom helped her gently, and for one reckless moment, he imagined years of this. Birthdays, school pickups, family dinners, tiny shoes by apartment doors, morning cartoons, Kendra falling asleep beside him after long days. The image arrived naturally now, not frightening anymore. Wanted. Kendra leaned lightly against his shoulder while Naomi settled sleepily between them. The park noise softened around them. People continued walking, laughing, living, and for the first time since becoming a mother, Kendra allowed herself to stop waiting for disaster every second. Not completely, but enough to breathe, enough to rest emotionally. Tom looked down at Naomi curled peacefully against his chest, then toward Kendra resting beside him, and quietly, without saying the words aloud yet, Tom realized he loved both of them deeply. 3 months later, the office building looked different to Tom. Not physically. The marble floors still reflected expensive shoes every morning. Executives still rushed through hallways pretending stress made them important. Coffee still smelled stronger near the lobby elevators around 8 o'clock. Everything looked the same. Still, nothing felt the same anymore. Because now, every time Tom walked through the service hallway downstairs, he remembered the exact moment his life changed. A baby hidden inside a cleaning cart. Funny how small moments rewrote entire futures. That morning, Kendra pushed the cart beside him, while Naomi sat proudly inside wearing tiny pink headphones she kept trying to chew. Tom glanced at the cart and laughed softly. You know what, crazy? Kendra looked over. What? If she never sneezed that day, we probably never would have spoken. Kendra smiled faintly while adjusting Naomi's blanket. Nah, Naomi dramatic. She would have found another way. That actually true. Naomi babbled loudly like she agreed. Tom shook his head, smiling. The building no longer felt cold around them now. Not because people suddenly changed. Some still stared. Some still whispered occasionally. But those things stopped mattering the same way, because somewhere along the journey, both of them stopped living for outside approval. Kendra noticed that change inside herself first. The woman who once lowered her eyes constantly now walked differently. Not arrogant, just lighter. Tom noticed it too. The way she laughed more openly now. The way exhaustion no longer swallowed every part of her personality. The way she finally allowed herself moments of happiness without apologizing for them. And honestly, seeing that transformation affected him deeply, because money did not heal Kendra. Feeling emotionally safe did. That realization stayed with him often. Later that afternoon, Naomi fell asleep inside the cart while Kendra organized cleaning supplies near the hallway. Tom leaned quietly against the wall, watching both of them. For a second, the memory returned vividly. Kendra standing terrified beside that same cart months earlier, certain she was about to lose everything. Tom rubbed his jaw slowly. If he had reported her that day, what would have happened? The thought bothered him immediately, because before meeting Kendra, he probably would have followed policy without hesitation. Rules were rules. Efficiency mattered. Emotions complicated judgment. At least that was the version of himself he used to be. Kendra noticed him getting quiet again. You thinking too hard? Tom smiled faintly. Probably. You do that a lot. He looked toward Naomi sleeping peacefully beneath the blankets. I was just remembering the first day. Kendra's expression softened immediately. Me too. Tom laughed quietly under his breath. You looked ready to fight me. That kind of hurt my feelings. Kendra rolled her eyes. You was a millionaire walking toward my baby. Of course I was ready. Tom nodded slowly. Fair. The hallway settled into comfortable silence afterward. Not empty silence, familiar silence, the kind people build after spending enough time learning each other's rhythms. Kendra finished organizing supplies before leaning lightly against the cart beside him. You know what weird? She asked softly. What? That day was one of the worst days of my life. Tom looked toward her carefully. Kendra smiled faintly while watching Naomi sleep. But somehow, it led me here. Tom's chest tightened quietly, because he understood exactly what she meant. Life had introduced them through struggle, through exhaustion, through survival. Still, something beautiful grew there anyway. Naomi suddenly woke up babbling loudly while reaching both hands toward Tom immediately. Kendra laughed softly. She's spoiled. Tom lifted Naomi carefully into his arms. The baby rested comfortably against his shoulder without hesitation. Automatic now, natural now, and for the first time in his life, Tom no longer feared that feeling, responsibility, connection, love. Instead, he protected it. Kendra watched him quietly holding Naomi beneath the soft hallway lights, and suddenly remembered something her grandmother used to say when life became difficult. God sends people into your life different ways, baby. Sometimes blessings arrive looking like problems first. Back then, Kendra never fully understood those words. Now she did, completely. Because the baby hidden inside that cleaning cart did more than change her life. She changed Tom's, too, and maybe that was the real lesson hiding inside everything that happened between them. Sometimes the people society overlooks carry the deepest love. Sometimes exhausted mothers become the strongest people in the room. Sometimes lonely men discover that success means nothing without somebody to come home to. And sometimes, one small act of kindness changes everything. Tom looked toward Kendra quietly while Naomi played with the collar of his shirt. No fear now, no hesitation, just gratitude, real gratitude. For the woman who taught him warmth, for the little girl who softened parts of him he thought were permanently closed, for the strange, beautiful way life interrupted both of them exactly when they needed it most. Kendra stepped closer gently before resting her head briefly against his shoulder. Tom kissed the top of Naomi's head automatically, then looked at Kendra, and smiled. Not the guarded business smile people in Washington recognized. A real one. The kind built from peace instead of performance. And maybe that was the true meaning of everything. A millionaire found a baby inside a janitor's cart, and accidentally discovered the life he had been searching for the entire time. Before you leave, family, remember this. Never look down on people fighting silent battles. You never know how hard somebody prayed just to survive another day. And if this story touched your heart, subscribe to Mr. Gray Family and stay with us for more unforgettable stories about love, struggle, healing, and the beautiful ways life surprises ordinary people. Because sometimes, the smallest moments become the ones that change us forever.